Hey everyone, Felipe here. Today I'm back in the farm. I've been away for 10 days. I was given a course in the state of Mato Grosso do Sul, and I just returned to the farm. And one of the things that instantly caught my eyes here was that the sesame, you can see it's all cut. The leaf cutter ants have been working around here, and so I thought, this is a great topic to discuss because a lot of people asks us about this. How do you deal with ants, with pests and with diseases and all that? And I always like to start with not how you're going to act about it, but what your mindset should be. Because I think that's the most important turning point for agriculture, or one of the most important turning points. It's what your mindset is about the ecosystem around it and all the elements that make part of it. Because the ants are just part of the ecosystem and they have a very important function. And they're not here to, sorry my language, but they're not here to fuck you up and to fuck your plants up. They're here with a very specific purpose and they do not cut randomly. They choose. They're very serious about their work, and that goes for any sort of pest. So there you go. Most of the sesames are cut. You can see that there are some which the ants left behind. Curiously enough, these you can see that they are the biggest plants. So the ones that are not cut were already the healthiest. They were already more beautiful and stronger and more vigorous than the ones that were cut. So that already gives us a bit of an insight of what the ants are doing. And as your system progresses, you can be absolutely sure pests are going to yield. They're going to stop bothering you more and more. And the rate in which pests stop being a problem depends, I would say, on three things mostly. How much work you put into your system, so how much organic material you're producing, how much you're feeding the soil, how much you are nourishing your plants properly. So the more health you bring to the system, the less pests and diseases are going to be a problem. A second thing, which is very important, is how long you've been working on your systems. Because the longer you've been working on it, the healthier it should be. Because the more organic material you've put into the soil, the more the plants have, really rooted and made associations with microorganisms of all sorts, and they have done a lot of photosynthesis. So they've brought a lot of health into the system through this sun, microorganisms, and the plant in between system. This is really what pumps up the system and makes it healthier. And third, which I think is one of the most forgotten aspects of it, is the size of your system. I always like to say that, the minimum area for you to start an agroforestry is half a square meter. And really, because you can start it in half a square meter. But we could talk about levels of balance in the ecosystem. And the bigger the place you work, the area that you have your influence in, the higher the level of balance you can achieve. And this is easy to understand when you think about all the beings and all the animals and all the plants and everything that live on this planet. And you have important elements of the ecosystem which are important to maintain its balance, such as, big mammals. And they can only live if you've got a huge area, a huge healthy area. For example, our jaguars over here in Brazil, they need at the very, very least 3,000 hectares in order to live properly. And it's easy to understand that if you take one element out of the system, this could trigger a series of unbalances um, that would come from it, from taking this element out. So, because the jaguars are going to stop killing the mammals, the grass eating animals and plants eating animals, and so these are going to thrive. They're going to have a bigger population, and that's going to impact the trees population and whatever. It's just going to, it becomes a snowball. And there's a good example of this, which is with the wolves in the Yellowstone Park. I remember seeing a video about this once. And, they reintroduced the wolves in the Yellowstone Park. I think it's the Yellowstone Park. And this triggered a bunch of changes, and even the courses of the rivers changed. So this is really amazing. A wolf is apparently not at all in relation to a river. How is it going to affect the river? It will drink water, but changing the course of the river is a pretty amazing thing to happen because you reintroduce the wolves. But this just goes to show that each element has a very important role for the balance of the system. So that's why the bigger your system is, the more you can include all these elements, and the more your system is going to influence the microclimate of the place. So, if you've got a 1 square meter agroforestry, you're not going to make such a big impact in your microclimate. If you can go under that 2 or 3 trees you've got there, and it's going to be, a nice shade. It's going to be a bit cooler, but it's not going to make a huge impact. But if you've got 10 hectares, then you've already made a major change in birds population, insects population, small mammals population. The microclimate is going to be impacted. And then if you go to 500 hectares, then you're going to start influencing bigger mammals. You're going to start influence a lot air humidity. You might even start influencing rainfall. So the bigger you grow, sorry for the finger there, the bigger you grow, the more you influence elements of the system. So 3 things, right? How much work you put into the system, so more organic material, a higher density of plants, more pruning, that makes for a healthier system faster. Then, for how long have you been working this system? So the longer, the healthier it should be, the more balanced it should be. And then the actual size of the area that you're working on. And that's why it's so important for farmers to really work together, because if you're a small holder, you can do a great job in your 2 or 3 or 5 or 10 acres. But if your neighbor is a crazy guy that's setting everything on fire every year, and using lots of pesticides and insecticides and everything, and monoculture, you're going to be influenced a lot by what's going on around you. So a few things to bear in mind, and then to end with one of the most amazing things of agroforestry, in my opinion, is this. I don't care that I lost the sesame because this cassava is coming through, and I've already harvested a bunch of beans. And I'm gonna change the camera. You can see the ants are still working here. Check it out. You know, they're putting organic material on the floor, on the soil, you know. And I've got the prickly pear coming through. I've got the cassava. I've got pigeon pea. I've got this cucumber. It's a special type of cucumber. There's a name for it. I don't remember it in English. And you know, I've got beans over there. That's actually cowpeas. And I've got my trees coming through. You know, papayas, jackfruit, cashew, lots of cashew. There's a bunch of sugar apple, moringa tree over here. This is 2 months old, just for you people to have an idea. So it doesn't hurt me the least. And since this is a place, you know, Reservado Cajuzeira, our farm here has a very, one of our missions is to be a research place and an education place. Of course, we produce as well, and we depend on it. But you know, this goes to show that agroforestry is great, and we don't have to spend our lives fighting other beings. I don't think that's a very productive thing to do. If we work properly, we can allow other beings to work properly. And of course, I'm not saying to you, you know, stop fighting leafcutter ants or whatever pest problem you've got. I'm just saying, let's change our mindset and understand that the ants are doing a work. Let's try to understand that and learn from it. And then, if you have to fight it somewhere, somehow, do it consciously and observe if the work that you're doing is reducing the pressure that these pests are doing in your system year after year. Because if you always have to fight these pests every year, if they don't yield, then something's wrong because your system is not getting healthier. So let's have that in mind. I thank you a lot for watching. If you like this video, give us a thumbs up. Leave a comment if you think this might be helpful to somebody, you know, share it with them. And if you haven't yet, subscribe to our newsletter so that you get all the news, all that we're doing. So, you know, you get some text content that we'll be sending always, and a bunch of goodies that we're releasing from time to time. You know, you want to be updated to what we're up to. So there's a link in the description in this video. I hope you enjoyed it. And this is the Agroforestry Academy crew. I'm Felipe Caltabiano from Reservado Cajuzeira in Lençóis, Bahia, and I'm signing out.